Welcome back to The Rhode Show. This morning in The Buzz. All right. You're not a parent yet, but you've been a kid.
Yes,
so
I am.
you get this, all right? So every December, parents go through the same rituals. You know, we trim the tree, we bake the cookies, and we use Santa and his helpers to make sure kids are on their best behavior as we approach December 25th, right? Mm-hmm.
He's watching.
Well, that's right. Most parents admit that they have used the, quote, Santa threat to try to discipline their kids at least once. But many experts are now saying the ploy does not work for long and could be sending the wrong message to kids. They say turning Santa into an enforcer drains some of the joy from the holiday season, putting old St. Nick in a negative light. Now, even the elf on the shelf phenomenon can be a little creepy, some experts say. Even so, parents and even celebrities and talk show hosts have turned to Elf on the Shelf. And here's how he works if you don't do it. The 8-inch tall elf spends his days watching kids to see if they're behaving. Then each night he flies to the North Pole to report bad behavior to Santa. When he returns, he lands in a different spot in the house, setting off a hide-and-seek game every morning for kids and parents. Psychologists are warning, though, that the thought of someone watching you can be weird and even a little bit creepy to kids.
Very.
All right, so do you think it's creepy? You think it's creepy?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the idea is good to kind of keep kids on their best behavior, especially obviously little ones. But I don't know, it's a little creepy having this thing watching you all the time.
You know, we were talking real quick about the Elf on the Shelf, though. It is a fairly new phenomenon. I guess this woman just created it back in '05. My kids were born prior to that, so we never really got hooked on the Elf on the Shelf thing.
I have one. I didn't put it out this year. I think Charlie's probably just next Christmas season. I think he'll be ready for it. But I think these psychologists have had their nose in the books too long or don't have kids of their own, because I call my life BC, before Charlie, and I think that I would have maybe thought he was creepy, or that maybe it's unfair to use Santa as a threat. Whatever works is my motto now, honestly.
But don't you think, Michelle, too, it is all in moderation, just like anything in life. Obviously, if you're pulling out the Santa threat, you know, 3 times a day, by December 24th, they're going to be like, whatever, and they're not going to be behaving.
And the Elf on the Shelf is supposed to be all year, supposedly.
No, just starting, like, I think,
I thought it was all year.
No, just like Thanksgiving time.
But
don't you remember as a kid how magical this season was?
Of course.
And it was because you heard and talked about Santa in the holidays and the Christmas season for that entire stretch. As adults, it's like all of a sudden it's upon us. So I think that that's part of it, is when you're talking about the kids, talking to them about, we don't just hand over presents. I mean, obviously there's a real meaning to the season as well, and that's important too for families to talk about and keep in mind. But I just think it's part of the magic that goes into that season.
Sure. And I think it's good, too, you know, the Elf on the Shelf thing. I mean, let's face it, we don't want our kids jumping off the walls all December, and there's that natural propensity for them to just have this excitement and this build-up. Kind of keeps them in check a little bit. I definitely don't find it
You made a great point. We talked about earlier in the year, we had a buzz where they were going to take out the toys in Happy Meals.
Right.
And, you know, you're saying, well, this is, people probably don't have kids that want to do this, because it distract a kid for 2 seconds. As a parent, I'm sure I'm not, but I'm sure you need just a couple minutes where you can, whatever it takes to calm the kids down.
I'm not into like big rewards, like, okay, if you behave, you get candy at the checkout line in the grocery store. I just don't even want to start that with my son. But I do think that there are moments where it's like, you know what, it doesn't hurt. And I think a little Santa threat can get you through the day. Can get you through some craziness in the season.
And if you need backup, then there's the Elf on the Shelf.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
All right,
I'm old school, baby. Wooden spoon threat. That's how you do it.
That worked for Ben.
Get this Elf on the Shelf nonsense.
All right, Courtney, what are people talking about on this? A lot of people participating in this Elf on the Shelf thing, or not really?
A couple are, and a couple have some traditions of their own, which is really cool. So I can share some of those stories. They're actually on our Facebook page, but we'll start on foxprovidence.com right now. We'll head over to Joe B, and he says, I have used this trick before, and guess what? It works. And Aaron S. says, maybe once or twice, but only if they're really having a bad day. And South County says, we have one. She's referring to the elf, and she says, it works. My daughter gets up very early to find where the elf is located. Here's our poll right underneath the live blog. Do you use a Santa threat on your kids? A, yes, it helps when disciplining. B, no, a Santa threat sends the wrong message. Or C, sometimes, but I don't rely on it to work. And here's a snapshot of our Facebook page, and Donna Stanley says, I used to, but now that they are 25 and 21, it's not as effective. And Eric Raposa shares this story. He says, it was getting late one Christmas Eve, and the party was coming to an end. Being really excited little me couldn't get to bed, so my clever grandma said to me, see that red light on the bridge? That's the Newport Bridge. And I said, yes. She then told me that was Rudolph's nose, and Santa is taking a pit stop on the bridge, and he will be here soon. He says, that got me right to bed in a hurry. So if you want to weigh in, you can do that on our web poll, and we'll see what you guys all think at the end of the show.